So it's difficult to get him out in the morning. So we would start at 7:15 in the morning, giving him his medication, and then you just basically have a routine then whereby you have a picture schedule, and so that he knows what's expected of him. So the picture schedule would consist of going to the toilet first, then brushing his teeth, then getting dressed. Now you need to go to the toilet, and then we brush your. Padraig attends a day service now, which he moved to when he finished in school at the age of 18. So he's been in this for the last 3 years. We call it college, to differentiate it from school. So he goes to college every morning. Now, the pattern of Padraig's life has always been that he hates going to school and he hates going to college, even though we know when he's there, he quite likes it. So Monday to Fridays, the passion is trying to get him up in the morning. And it's hugely difficult, because he doesn't want to go. And also, unfortunately, Padraig has a high degree of medication. He takes a lot of medication. He's on an antipsychotic medication. He's on a medication for mood. It's all to kind of adjust his mood to make him, what's the word I'm looking for? In other words, to make him less volatile.
One, two, one, two, three, four, five.
At the moment, it's taking anything from 2 hours to 3 hours, and there will be some mornings, like you'd start at 7:15, you could be still there at 11:15. It varies, but it's 2 hours clear every morning anyway, It takes huge patience. It takes great, dare I say, great skill as well, just to get him out and moving,
There you go. Hop in.
It's €109 per room per night, including breakfast. Call 1850 911 333 or visit ClaytonHotels.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Wake up, snooze, break alarm clock, get up, breakfast, coffee, teeth, traffic, work, fight with boss, lunch.
Padraig was diagnosed when he was 2 years and 8 months on the 2nd of December 1997. Not a date we're ever likely to forget.
The reality is, the years have passed. We have become really aware that Padraig is just very, very severely autistic.
He was a beautiful baby, and he was the jolliest, funniest little character you ever. And deep down, he's still like that. Padraig has a lot of challenges, particularly around sensory integration, which is a major problem for some children with autism. And so, trying to sit still, etc., is very, very difficult for him. It's like there's almost an electric current running through his body all the time. And unfortunately, that manifests itself then in a lot of self-injury. Unfortunately, Padraig has done significant damage to himself and continues to do significant damage to himself because on his body, I think because of the sensory integration issues, his arms are regularly marked, his thighs are marked, his legs are marked, And most unfortunately of all, his head is regularly marked. He's got, unfortunately, large protrusions at both sides, at both temples, from self-injury.
You know, we became past masters at going to the VHI clinic, you know, and taking him in to get him checked out, because he'd end up limping, and you just didn't know, had he broken something. You know, it's just so difficult.
You need to be calm. You need to be calm. That's disgraceful. Physically, Padraig is a very challenging boy when he's upset, or when something upsets him, or when he's frustrated and angry and doesn't understand and can't communicate. Then, you know, he tends to lash out.
We used to find, just taking him to woods, that he really likes walking woodland paths, and
breaking routine.
yeah, absolutely. You know, because like I said earlier, you know, I think going to school, you know, he found that hard. I think he got bored of it, you know, and I think he liked the break in routine on a Saturday and a Sunday, whereby we'd take him off to the woods, you know, go to the swimming pool. But he loved nature, you know, and it gave us great pleasure, you know, two small boys running around woodland paths, you know, it was a very normal activity.
I don't think Padraig's ever had a friend apart from the people, apart from his own family, or of course the people who've worked with him over the years. But he doesn't have a friend the same as normal teenagers have friends, you know. He goes to school, but you know, he doesn't really establish relationships with too many of the other children. It is isolation, you know. He is isolated, but yet he responds well, you know, to the people that he works with. And again, all the carers that he's worked with would testify to the fact, you know, that he communicates well with them. Anybody who's worked with Padraig over the years, you know, not just us, but people who know him, have always liked him, despite the challenges that he's proven that he's given them, and despite the challenges that he's had himself. You know, he's a likeable kid, you know, because there's that nature in him, you know.
Padraig, you're? Padraig, you're?
Here's what I.
Do you want tickles?
Yes, yes. Jag slutar dra.
What you want?
Crackers.
Oh, crackers. Padraig, your crackers. You're?
Crazy.
Big fat.
Hey.
Big fat.
Hey.
Oh.
Yeah, Padraig and Padraig the artist. Yes, Padraig, as a small boy, you know, would start. He loved to colour. I'm not talking about the traditional colouring book, you know, but he would you know, pick up a marker or pick up paint. Actually, too, was a big part of it long ago, and he would colour every single spot on the page, you know. You know, a bill, an envelope on the counter was never safe. You know, he'd grab a biro and he would colour and 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 colour until it was all coloured. We then started noticing that there was a pattern in the colours that he used. We used to call it the Carlo colours, or the Teletubby colours. He was a big fan of the Teletubbies, and he always starts with a red stripe, followed by a yellow stripe, followed by a green stripe, followed by a purple stripe, and then he works his way through the spectrum of colours.
The most interesting thing about Padraig there are the teddies, or what he calls his teddies, which is a collection of random objects. So a teddy could be anything. It could be a bottle top, it could be a coin, it could be a piece of paper. And these teddies are constantly, it could be a marker, right? But he just cannot survive without these teddies. Now, he's a bit unique like that, in that not every child with autism that we know has a collection of teddies, but it's like control over his world. Padraig loves his teddies because he arranges them in certain order. He's a tremendous eye, and his capacity to line the materials up is absolutely amazing. He can line them up in the most beautifully organised patterns that you've ever seen in your lives. But we think it's mainly because it's the control, because that's one thing he can control, because when you have a child or a person with autism, you don't have much control over your life. People tell you where to go all the time. People direct you. And so this is his control, and his teddies are just essential to his existence. The immediate future probably won't be too bad, because while we're healthy and able to mind Padraig, the game plan is that he will live with us. And so the immediate future will probably be pleasant. We'll be retired, and which means we'll probably have more time for Padraig. But of course, the big issue will come for Padraig when we won't be able to mind him anymore, and then that will be a very big challenge. We don't think about it too much, but because you never know how life is going to play out, and there's always the hope. There's always the hope that that there'll be some major breakthrough in the treatment of people with autism.
I'm different to Martin. I don't hold the hope for the famous stem cells. For Padraig, I think Padraig's life is wrecked. As a parent, and as we're getting older and more burnt out, I mean, my big worry about Padraig is who's going to visit him, who's going to care for him. Stupid things like who'll hold his hand if he's dying. And an awful lot of our friends would talk about that. You actually would much prefer, I don't know, it's terrible, but we have one friend, and she would say, I pray every day that I will live one day longer than my son with autism.
His life is so challenged that, dealing with him from our point of view is challenging, but dealing with it from his point of view must be a total nightmare. And while we can get away from this nightmare, Padraig can never, Padraig lives with this 24/7.